Alert, a major bombshell in the Trump documents case. The FBI authorized the use of deadly force during the Mar-a-Lago raid. This according to documents filed by Trump's legal team. Agents in unmarked polo shirts planned to bring standard issue weapons, ammo, handcuffs, medium and large size bolt cutters, and even lock-picking equipment as they prepared to go door to door at Mar-a-Lago. And they did, ransacking Melania Trump's bedroom along with Barron Trump's bedroom. The FBI also took extensive photographs of Melania and Barron's rooms for no apparent reason. Think about this for a second. Joe Biden sent men with guns to his political opponent's house and turned their bedrooms upside down. That's never happened in the history of the United States.
No, it doesn't happen in a lot of third world countries either. We're going to talk about it together in 15 seconds.
Do you want the truth? Are you tired of being so confused? You feel like you're more f***ed up than the lies on the evening news? Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all as friends. And if you want, we can hug and kiss and make up for the party ends.
That's still point. The Don't Unfriend Me ban, STIILPOINT. Troubling stuff, folks. But we live in troubling times, and who would I be if I didn't bring it to you? Well, my name is Matthew Spear. I'm the host of the Don't Unfriend Me show, and this is what we do 7 p.m. weeknights, Eastern Standard. You can stop on by and see us. Speaking of troubling times, not much shocks me anymore. I've witnessed plenty of troubling things, but this one really takes the cake. Late last night, as I was scrolling through my feed, I stumbled upon an unbelievable revelation from a newly unsealed court filing. This document provided shocking insights into the FBI raid on Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence in August of 2022. It revealed that the FBI's operational order included a policy statement authorizing the use of deadly force. Now, this is pretty standard in law enforcement. Anyone with a firearm who's been a Leo, DOJ, FBI, local law enforcement, doesn't matter. Even civilians who have concealed carry have an issuance of what is legal and illegal when it comes to the use of deadly force. This is standard. You learn this in training. You learn this at the academy. You also have this in your mission briefings, and you have reminders constantly about policy updates. No big deal. The problem is the revelation got me thinking specifically about the legal and, more importantly, the ethical implications of such an approach, especially considering the high stakes involved in raiding former president's property. As someone who has worked in both the Navy and as a Master at Arms temporary duty and as a government intelligence analyst, I understand the gravity and potential danger of law enforcement operations. The use of deadly force is a serious matter, and it's typically justified only when there is an imminent threat to the lives of law enforcement officers or others. This all stemmed from the Supreme Court case Tennessee versus Garner, 1985. And established that deadly force could be used when an officer has probable cause to believe that a suspect poses a significant threat of death or serious physical injury. This principle is fundamental to law enforcement policies across the country, like I said, including those in the DOJ. However, this is a very well-known and regarded rule, and it is trained incessantly on all levels of law enforcement. I used to train firearms instruction in Wyoming in college, the local sheriff's department, something we talked about incessantly. The use of deadly force and when it is okay and when it is not okay. To state this would be like telling someone, and remember, don't plant evidence and don't steal money and don't go ahead and question people without Mirandizing them. These things are trained constantly. And to put every single nuance inside of a warrant to ensure that it's a training tool, it's kind of weird that you would put an amendment to a warrant based upon the ramifications and the stipulations and guidelines of using deadly force when there are thousands of other things you could also include in that warrant that aren't included. Why deadly force? Why specifically is that important? The details of the Mar-a-Lago raid raises serious questions as to the why. The fact that the FBI planned to bring standard issue weapons, ammo, handcuffs, and bolt cutters It suggests a high level of preparedness for potential violence. This despite knowing that Trump would not be present during the raid, as he was in New York at the time. And this kind of preparedness seems excessive for a raid that, by all accounts, did not anticipate any resistance whatsoever. Moreover, the presence of Secret Service agents who are trained to defend the president and former presidents with their lives adds another level of complexity. If there had been any confrontation, it's likely that the Secret Service would have intervened to protect Trump, potentially leading to a catastrophic outcome. This immediately stops all question about Joe Biden not knowing about this. The Secret Service would most assuredly brief President Biden on this. This is a potential conflict. This is an interagency issue. Of course, the president would be notified, and still, Merrick Garland moved forward with executing the warrant. The mere authorization of deadly force in such a scenario, it does feel unnecessary, and it feels like an escalation. And knowing that the Secret Service primary duty is to protect the president, the situation could have easily spiraled out of control if they perceived a threat. And if the threat was perceived, notifying the president would be SOP, or standard operating procedure. The raid itself was described by Trump's legal team as an armed storming of a private residence. They argued that it was unconstitutional, violating Trump's attorney-client privilege and serving more as a political maneuver than a legal necessity. The search warrant, which allowed for a broad and invasive search of the 17-acre estate, included areas unrelated to the investigation, further supports this view. The warrant scope included rooms like a gym, a kitchen, as Jesse Waters mentioned, Melania Trump's master bedroom suite, and obviously Barron's suite as well. The broad search raises questions about the specificity and justification for such an extensive operation. From my perspective, this operation seems less about law enforcement and more about intimidation. The agent seized hundreds of documents, personal documents, photographs, newspapers, including Trump's personal belongings, and even his passport and medical records. This level of intrusion, coupled with a readiness to use deadly force, appears to be a blatant attempt to send a message rather than merely gather evidence. The fact that they removed Trump's passport indicates a level of thoroughness that goes beyond the typical scope of such raids. The presence of a detailed contingency plan also indicates a high level of anticipation for potential violence. The plan included having paramedics on site and identifying the nearest trauma center. This level of preparation suggests that the agents were expecting the possibility of injuries and the likelihood of injuries. Moreover, the agents were instructed to wear unmarked polo or collared shirts, as we mentioned earlier, and to keep their law enforcement equipment concealed, further indicating a desire to blend in and potentially avoid detection until necessary. This would lead to even more confusion and the risk of mistaken identity, exacerbating an already volatile situation. In my experience, both in the military and intelligence fields, the use of force must be always a last resort, carefully considered and justified by the circumstance and, of course, the situation and mission parameters. The Mar-a-Lago raid appears to have inverted this principle, making force a ready option rather than a reluctant necessity. The fact that they included the possibility of engaging with Trump and the U.S. Secret Service in the plan shows a readiness for confrontation that seems excessive, given the context. The situation brings to mind several past incidents where the use of deadly force by law enforcement has been called into question. In many cases, the justification for such force is scrutinized, especially when it results in unnecessary harm or fatalities. The Mar-a-Lago raid, with its potential for deadly force, risks adding to this problematic history. For instance, considering the case of Breonna Taylor, where the use of force during a no-knock raid led to her tragic death. These situations highlight the critical need for stringent oversight and justification when authorizing the use of deadly force. Roger Stone, I just put that up in the graphic, where his family was forced with M4 fully automatic weapons in the wee hours of the morning as they were handcuffed and thrown into cars. Excessive. The broader implications of this raid are troubling. It suggests a willingness within parts of our law enforcement agencies to risk an accidental confrontation that could have deadly consequence. In a scenario involving a high-profile figure like Trump, the potential for things to go wrong is significant. Such actions erode trust in law enforcement and the justice system, painting them as tools for political vendettas rather than impartial enforcers of the law. The perception that this raid was politically motivated, especially given its timing and execution, cannot be ignored. I can't help but wonder if this raid was designed to provoke a response. Knowing that Trump was not there, was the deadly force policy in place just in case someone else in the residence reacted defensively? The whole situation seems engineered to maximize tension and a potential conflict. The fact that agents were prepared to engage with the Secret Service indicates a level of anticipation for violence that seems disproportionate to the actual threat. This approach is dangerous and counterproductive. Law enforcement should be about upholding the law, not creating scenarios where violence becomes a likelihood. The presence of paramedics and plans for contingencies during the raid indicate that they anticipated potential violence, which further underscores the recklessness of the operation. This level of preparedness for potential violence is not typical for such raids and suggests a significant overestimation of the threat. The unsealed court filing reveals more than just the operational details of the Mar-a-Lago raid. It exposes a troubling mindset within the parts of law enforcement agencies that exist. The readiness to use deadly force, the broad search warrant, and the political undertones suggest a dangerous precedent. It's a reminder that we must always scrutinize the actions of those in power, ensuring that justice remains blind and not influenced by political motivations. The use of deadly force should always be the last resort, as I've said, and it's justified by a clear and present danger, not a tool for political gain, and there was no danger here. This raid has set a concerning example of how power can be wielded in ways that threaten the very principles of justice and fairness, the things that Democrats keep espousing, Republicans are trying to steal away. It's amazing how the left always accuses others of what they're doing themselves. Folks, thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show. You can find us weeknights at 7 o'clock on the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Please stop by tv.spreely to watch us there. You can also stop by thedumbshow.com. And we also have one other thing, thedumbclub.com. If you like the show and you'd like to stay tuned, you like gift boxes and special discounts on product, please stop by thedumbclub.com and pick yourself up a membership. Thanks so much. We'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.